Hello everybody, how you doing today? It's Superfiend here, and welcome to another Total War Warhammer II tutorial series. Today we'll be looking at provinces, settlements, and the building system. And we'll also be looking at some of the mechanics that control provinces. And there's quite a few mechanics in the game that do, and we're going to limit our discussion today to growth, population, and the building system. Now, provinces and settlements in the campaign map are your source of income. They're the source of your economy, and they're also the means by which you can recruit troops and agents. You can also gather resources. We can see some resource icons here, pastures and exotic animals. You can gather resources within settlements. And finally, you can build defensive buildings to bolster your settlements in case they're attacked when you don't have an army nearby. Now, if we zoom out and we look at the campaign map from a higher level, we can see that the campaign map is divided into provinces. So this province here is the Lost Valley, and these are the larger borders that represent it. We have the Kultron Plains over here, which is all of this territory. It's a little hard to figure out exactly which territory it occupies, but if on closer inspection, you can see that that is correct. And then the provinces themselves are divided into settlements. And so the Lost Valley is composed of 3 individual settlements, and each settlement itself is represented by a building on the campaign map. Now, every province has what's called a provincial capital. That's the most powerful settlement within the province. And then the other settlements are referred to as minor settlements. If you click on any settlement within the province, you will get the province user interface panel. And here we can see the 3 settlements that make up this province. The provincial capital always occupies the settlement slot on the left, and then the minor settlements occupy the slots on the right. And you can click on these things here to zoom to the individual settlement that's in question. Within the settlements themselves, you have building slots. The top left building slot is referred to as the town center. And then the remaining building slots are yours to build in. Now, if your settlement is on the coast, which is the case here with Chupayoidal, then you will always lose one of the building slots to a port or a harbor, which generally boosts your income and sometimes increases the settlement growth. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be limiting our discussion to growth, population, and the building system. So now let's turn our attention to growth and population and see exactly what they do. If we click on one of the settlements here, we can see that each of the town centers has a various rank or tier. Within the minor settlements, these buildings have been upgraded to tier 3. And within the provincial capital, the town center has been upgraded to rank 5. The number of buildings and the power of the other buildings you can build is directly controlled by the tier rating or the rank level of the town center. Therefore, it's in your best interest when occupying new territory to grow your settlements as rapidly as possible. Growth and population are the mechanics by which you grow or level up your town centers. So let's look at how they work. Over here on the left, we can see the information panel for the province, and we can see that there's an entire section dedicated to growth. We see that there's a line for the current growth, which in this province is 1,236, and we need 1,250. The plus 157 is how much growth we're earning per turn. Therefore, we only need 14 growth to gain a new population surplus, and then the population surplus counter will increase from 3 to 4. And the game is nice enough to show us that the turns until a surplus point is 1. After we end turn and come around and have 4 population surplus, the counter on the left will reset to 0 or maybe a little bit above, and the counter on the right will increase to a new maximum number. And then the population will continue to grow again. Now, it's important to know that your population and growth is scoped within settlements. So all of the population and growth within the Lost Valley cannot be transferred to any other provinces or settlements. It affects only the settlements within the province itself. If we look at another province here, which I share with Lothern, the growth in population is not shared with the other settlements owned by another faction. So this growth and all the source of it is limited to these 2 settlements right here. We can also see that this provincial capital's town center is currently only rank 4 and not 5, and so 2 of the building slots are not yet unlocked. We can also see here that we need 5 population surplus before we can upgrade this building. And it's going to take 6 turns until we gain a population surplus, at which point the counter will roll over from 4 to 5 and we can upgrade this building. If we look at another settlement, or another province I should say, over here, we can see that this town center in the provincial capital is currently only rank 3, and we need 4 population surplus to upgrade it to rank 4. We see that the province itself only has 2 population, and it's going to take 5 more turns until it increases to 3, and then it will probably take 6 or 7 more turns after that before it increases to 4. So overall, it's probably going to take anywhere from 10 to 14 turns before we have the required population to upgrade this town center in the provincial capital. Looking at the minor settlements, we can see that this one is already rank 3, and this one is 1 turn away from being built and then will be rank 3. Now, in terms of growth, there are many factors in a Total War Warhammer 2 campaign that will affect growth, and those could be lords, heroes, agents, any of their followers or traits, technologies, events, dilemmas, rites, rituals, faction bonuses, and all other manner of things. Now, as I said earlier, the economic or military power of a province is directly related to the ranking level of the town centers. So it's in your best interest to grow those town centers as rapidly as possible. Therefore, I recommend always building first the settlement buildings that increase growth. We can see here that each of these minor settlements, and even the provincial capital, has this building that looks like a bunch of wheat. And if we look at the information panel on the left, we see that this one provides plus 36 growth, this one provides plus 27, as does this one. All of those growth bonuses add up amongst the settlement as a whole and contribute to the plus 174. Your minor settlements are not going to be very useful in most cases until they have been ranked to 3, because that is the rank level at which you can finally add walls and give them a good garrison and better protection from attack from the AI. And it's at this time now that we'll turn our attention to the building system. The building system within Total War Warhammer 2 is rather simple and intuitive once you understand it. As I said earlier, your settlements consist of building slots. If you have a free building slot within a settlement and the available funds in your treasury, then you can build a building. Alternatively, if a building already exists and your town center is of a high enough rank or tier, you may be able to upgrade a building. We can see examples of that here in this settlement, where the town center is currently rank 3, and each of these buildings, which is currently rank 2, is ready to be upgraded to the next rank. If we were to click on this, it will cost 4,650 from our treasury to build it, and it will take 3 turns to do so. If we click on that, we can now see a counter indicating how many turns it will take until this building is ready and the funds have been deducted from our treasury. We can cancel a building in progress, no matter how many turns are remaining, simply by clicking on it, and the funds are returned to our treasury. If we look at this settlement here, we see that we have a free building slot and a building that is ready to be upgraded. If we hover over the free building slot, we see all the available building categories, and within them, the buildings themselves that we can build. We see that the buildings, the lowest ranked options for them, are at the bottom, and they grow upwards like trees. Now, it's important to note there's a big difference between provincial capitals and minor settlements, and we can see that by opening the building browser. When we open the building browser for this minor settlement, we see that all of the rank 4 and rank 5 building options are not available to us, and that is because the maximum tier for the town center is 3. However, if we look at the provincial capital, we can see that as we upgrade it, by looking to the right, it will unlock all of the buildings. And this is an important thing to note. If you want to know which buildings you can build within your settlement, you simply look at the level of the town center, and everything that's to the right of it could currently be built. There's a couple more aspects of the building system I'll cover, and then I'll share with you some general provincial strategies to use within your campaign. First, buildings within a settlement are unique within that settlement, meaning you cannot build the same building repeatedly inside of a settlement. We look here at this minor settlement that has a building slot, and we already have the Royal Garrison building. We cannot build it again in this slot. we can build any of these other buildings that are available. Also, if we look at the building down here, we see that that building cannot be duplicated. The game simply does not allow it. However, you can duplicate buildings within the settlements in a province. And we can see that if we look at this province over here. This building, which looks like a little trinket or an heirloom, has been built in each of the settlements in this province. This building grants an economic bonus, which is 200 income generated per turn, and they stack to provide the province as a whole 600 income per turn total. The other thing to look at within the building system is it's possible to demolish buildings. If you hover over a building and you click on the demolish building button, the building will take one turn and then it will be destroyed, and you'll get the building slot back and you can build a new building there. We can also see in this little information panel that we'll get 2,400 funds returned to our treasury by demolishing the building. You never get the same amount of funds that you spent to build the building when you demolish it. So you should really only demolish buildings that you're absolutely certain you're not going to be using further. We can go ahead and we can demolish every building in this province. And if we decide that we don't want to do it, we can simply click on them to cancel that. Now, it's worth noting that it is not possible to demolish town centers. None of the town centers can be demolished, and neither can ports. So once you spend the funds upgrading a port or a town center, they will be gone for good. A common reason to demolish your buildings can be seen here. In this province, we have 3 buildings that contribute to growth, and 2 of the minor settlement town centers are already rank 3. And eventually, the town center of the provincial capital will be rank 5, at which point we won't need the growth from these buildings anymore, and we would likely demolish each of them, end our turn, and when we come back around on the next turn, we would build different buildings within their place. Now that we've looked at growth, population, and the building system, I'll share with you some tips, strategies, and guidelines for managing your provinces as a whole and making your life easier. The first, and this is a very important tip, is that you should always try to build the garrison building that provides walls within your minor settlements if it's available to you in your faction. Not all factions can build such a building. However, if you can, you should do it, because when the AI decides to attack a settlement, if the settlement has walls, the AI will generally wait and siege for a few turns. This buys you valuable time to reinforce the settlement with a nearby army, or the garrison building itself provides a much stronger garrison for the settlement, and you may be able to defeat the AI anyways. However, since settlements are a large investment of money and time in terms of campaign turns, you want to buy yourself every opportunity to defend them and not lose them. If I click on this province, and as I cycle through and we look at the minor settlements within my campaign, we can see that the majority of them have walls, or walls are being built currently. And that is because I do not want to lose these settlements to attacks from the AI. The second tip in regards to settlements is to always build your growth buildings first, which we can see is something I'm doing over here in this province. This is new territory amongst hostile lands, and I need the walls in these minor settlements as soon as possible in order for my army to safely travel far from my new territory. Therefore, each of these settlements has a growth building in it, so I can get the minor settlements up to tier 3 as rapidly as possible and build the walls. We can see that this minor settlement here is 2 turns away from getting the wall building, and this one here I will be able to begin upgrading 1 turn from now when the town center in this minor settlement is completed. However, until these walls are complete, this army cannot venture very far from this territory because it is surrounded by hostile stacks that will move in and take this territory for me very rapidly. Once your settlements have been upgraded as far as necessary, then you are free to demolish the growth buildings and replace them with other types of buildings. Since this settlement is in the middle of hostile territory, I will most likely focus on building military buildings. That would allow me to raise an army here very rapidly to reinforce my current army here that is all by itself. And with 2 armies, I could fight all the threats here much more rapidly. And this idea leads into the third tip, which is it's generally best to specialize your provinces between two purposes. The first purpose is military recruitment, and the second purpose is economic. Let's take a moment and look at both of those. Let's look at what it means to specialize a province for military recruitment. If we click on this building right here and we go to the building browser, we can see the buildings that are military buildings that are available to my faction. If we count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's only 7 buildings. Therefore, in order to build all of them in a single province, the province itself does not need to be very large. We can also see that some of them require a rank 4 or 5 town center to be built, and therefore these advanced military buildings would need to be built in the provincial capital. Let's go over and look at one of the military recruitment provinces in this campaign and see what I've done. If we look here at the building browser for this settlement, we can see in the provincial capital that I have built all 4 and fully upgraded the advanced military buildings. I have also built 2 of the basic military buildings and upgraded them as high as possible. The remaining military building has been built in the minor settlement, and between these 2 settlements, I have been able to build every single military recruitment building, and I can recruit every troop type from this province within my campaign. In general, you do not need very many military recruitment provinces. If we were to cycle through my provinces here, we would see that the majority of them do not have any military recruitment buildings at all. The only other province that I am starting to turn into a military province is this one over here, and as stated earlier, it's because it's amidst hostile territory, and the ability to recruit from this province will do me well in winning battles in these new lands. You also don't need very large provinces to build your military provinces. This province itself has only 3 settlements, and the other province that is a military recruitment center only has 2 settlements. In general, you want to reserve provinces that are very small as your military recruitment centers and use all of your other provinces, which are much larger and have more settlements, for your economic provinces. And the reason for that is simple. As I stated earlier, when we look at this province, the bonus from all of these economic buildings stacks. So the more economic buildings you can load into a province, the more income per turn it will generate for you. If we look over here at my faction capital, we can see that the majority of the buildings are economic buildings or trade resource buildings. And if we look at the province panel, we can see that my faction capital is generating a lot of income. Part of the reason for this is I have deployed here these heroes. And when we look at the heroes, each of them has a trait, which is the entrepreneur trait. And we can see that each of these heroes grants a 30% increase to income from all buildings in the local province. Therefore, I have a 90% increase in local income in the province that these heroes are deployed within. It's in my best interest to put them in the largest province with the most economic buildings, because that will stretch the 90% bonus the farthest. The last bit of advice in regards to buildings in provinces is to read your building tooltips very carefully, because buildings may provide bonuses other than military recruitment or money. And let's look at that right now. We can see here that in this provincial capital, I have built all of the available economic buildings. I could at this time demolish the growth building and replace it with the garrison building, and I will probably do so. However, we still see that there are 2 advanced military buildings, and you may be wondering to yourself, why did I spend the time and resources to build them? Well, the first is, if we look at this building here, it increases the hero capacity for mages on the campaign map. So by building this building, I can have more mage heroes embedded in my armies or performing agent actions on the campaign map. If we look at this building, at level 5, it provides an untainted corruption bonus in adjacent provinces. If we look at the campaign map here, That building is in this province. And so all adjacent provinces now have a further +2 untainted corruption bonus. And the reason I built it is because of this province here is having corruption problems. And if we look at this province, the corruption problems are directly affecting the public order. We have -7 public order due to corruption. So building that building in an adjacent province will help fight the corruption over here. There are many buildings in Total War Warhammer 2 that have similar bonuses, and you should always read your tooltips very carefully, and you should try to stack your economic or mage capacity or hero capacity buildings as much as possible. However, there's no bonus in repeatedly building the same military buildings within a province unless the tooltip says so. We can see here that this building provides +1 untainted corruption and allows the recruitment of 2 types of troops. If we were to repeat that building in this minor settlement, the only bonus we would gain is a further +1 untainted corruption, and there may be another building type within here that suits that goal better than building a second one of these. Having said all that, that concludes this video tutorial. I hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you elsewhere on my channel. You have a good afternoon, and take care.